No, this is not Love Island. No, I don't have any singles to match up tonight. And I'm definitely not Ian Sterling. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence, where this is the place to be if you are obsessed and passionate about the UFC. And we're going to be recapping some of the events from UFC 316 this past weekend. We're going to get into some of the juicy gossip, couple of talking points we're going to go through tonight. We are going to go through Merab's toughest test in the Bantamweight division. We'll go through Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes next in the women's Bantamweight division. We've also got an update on the John Jones, Tom Aspinall situation, as well as Merab Dvalishvili talking about a potential super fight against Alejandro Pantoja, the flyweight champion. Of course, we're going to match up the winners and losers from this past weekend's main card and predict some of their future fights. So welcome on in, hit a like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. This is a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. So let's hear your thoughts, and I'll pop up your chats on screen as well, because that's what we like to do as when we're discussing these future fights. First up, did anyone see any of the prelims? I think the only one that I caught was Mirzakhanov's win, TKO win against Brenton Ribeiro, and Joshua Van's TKO victory against Bruno Gustavo da Silva. Since that fight, Joshua Van is now stepping in for the injured Manel Kape, and he's going to be taking on Brandon Royval at UFC 317. So a massive jump up for Joshua Van. It's a tough fight against Royval. Manel Kape's a bit of a pull-out merchant. He's pulled out of several fights since joining the UFC. Joshua Van, man, he's a talented kid, but is it the right move to make, which we will find out later on in the month? That's it for the prelim side of things. Welcome on in if you're new and if you're joining the channel. Let's get into some of the main card stuff then, shall we? Let's get into the first fight and discuss Kevin Holland's win against Vicente Luque. Man, I mean, Kevin Holland, right? This guy at welterweight is a demon. And yes, he's had some ups and downs in the organisation, but he's active and he stays active. He kind of reminds me of Donald Cerrone back in the day, where he would have like 3 to 4 fights a year and always willing to step up, barely injured, company man as well. And look, to see him put Luque out like that was damn impressive, because we said in the expectations, Kevin's got to knock Luque out, and on the other hand, Luque could very well wrap him up in a submission in quick succession, because we've kind of seen Holland get caught before on the ground, and Luque is very slick in that area. But look, he proved us all wrong, and fans have kind of underestimated Kevin Holland's ground game because of his losses against those bigger, stronger fighters who can wrestle. We would have expected Luque to pull off that submission like that. He got the takedown. Holland got the takedown and then wrapped up the submission as Luque was getting back to his feet. I believe it was an anaconda choke in the end. And look, how many wins is that for Kevin Holland by a submission in this weight class? Because I feel like did he tap out Li Jingliang? Is it one of Li Jingliang? Ola Shajuk, that was back at middleweight. He Darce choked Michael Chiesa at welterweight. Oh no, he TKO'd Ponzinibbio. Darce choked Tim Means. That's what, his third submission at welterweight. And he's had 2 knockouts. So all of his wins in welterweight, oh no, bar the Gunnar Nelson fight, have been finishes. And look, who does he want next? Who does he want next? Did anyone see in the news who he called out? Apparently he called out Colby Covington. Now that's a hell of a fun fight, but I can't see Colby accepting it. Like Chael Sonnen, Colby seems to talk his way into fights that he doesn't deserve. So if we head on into the rankings then to see if there's any updates. We see Kevin Holland now back ranked at 14, which I believe he wasn't ranked at before. Yeah, I don't think he was ranked there before. We might have been. We got future matchups. Any future matchups as well in this division? Got Usman Buckley, which is happening this weekend. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's fighting Gabriel Bonfim. So Bonfim's going to get a crack at the rankings. So I'm just going to quickly do that. There we go. Stay still. Yeah, where was I? So Holland in at 14. Colby would probably end up. Maybe he might try and campaign for the Ian Machado Gary fight, even though I think Ian Machado Gary needs to be fighting up in the rankings since defeating Carlos Prates because he's already defended his ranking. Colby could fight the loser of Buckley. If Buckley loses to Usman, I can see him fighting Buckley. Would he take Michael Morales? Probably not. There's not really many fights for Colby to try and strive for in the top part of the division. So I'm hoping that he will grow a pair and finally accept a fight from a guy who's ranked below him. And Kevin Holland would be that guy. Other than that, I would like to see Kevin Holland fight Carlos Prates, perhaps. Because Prates couldn't pass the 5-round test against Ian Machado Gary. And it's kind of an ideal opponent for Holland. Sorry, for Prates, because Holland has a ton of experience under his belt. So I can see the UFC perhaps making that fight 14 versus 13. Or does Kevin deserve a bigger jump? And if so, you're then looking at Gilbert Burns. Could be a good one for him. Either that or because Prates doesn't deserve Burns, does he? I mean, he could get Burns. He's a bit of a fan favourite, so you kind of almost want to say, why not, right? Yeah. Welcome on in if you're just joining us. Hit that like button, folks, and get in the chats, and let's hear who you think you want to see Kevin Holland fight next under the UFC banner. Do you think he should stay at welterweight? Because I do. I think he fits welterweight a lot better, and there's some better fights stylistically for him, whereas I think middleweights are generally too big for him. I'm tired of seeing him against middleweight, so I hope, fingers crossed, we don't see that. Welcome on in, Barat. Welcome here on in, sir. He says, Kevin doesn't want young killers, according to himself in a post-fight interview. Well, at least you've been keeping up with the post-fight interviews. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. Yeah, for sure. He's been around the game, but he's so experienced. Why would you give him young killers? You're damn right. So Prates, that rules out Prates. It's got to be Colby, really, isn't it? We've got to have the Colby fight. That is some trash talk. And look, that is main event. That as a fight night. I want to see that. That's what I want to see. He referred to what Hamzat did to him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, it depends also if you would consider the Riddler as a young killer, really, as well. I guess he's in his 30s. He's just entered the UFC, but he's had a wealth of experience under his belt. So you could say young in terms of UFC young, I guess. Yes, welcome on in, Ash. We are doing fantastic. Glad that you have joined us instead of watching Love Island. Yeah, at least he's honest, for sure. All right, yeah. The other options I've got for Luque, it's a bit sucks for Luque, really. He's 2 wins in his last 6 now. The 2 I've got would be Mike Malott. He's a young killer. On a 2-fight win streak since losing to Neil Magny, which was a little while ago now. But the question is Mike Malott ready for someone like Luque? Because, you know, would you say that Vicente Luque is better than Neil Magny? Skill-wise, Probably yes. Magny's a problem because he's tall, awkward, lanky, likes to clinch a lot against the cage. He was successful on the ground against Malott in that third round when Malott tired. For me, I think Malott is ready to bounce back, get another guy who's very experienced. He's learned his lesson. Let's see him against the Luque, right? The other option I've got for Luque is a more nicer option. Somebody in a similar amount of experience as him would be Daniel Rodriguez. He's also on a 2-fight win streak, but has 2 wins in his last 5 fights. He's coming off of a 3rd round TKO win against Santiago Ponzinibbio, another veteran. So I think the UFC, that kind of fight makes a lot more sense if you are the UFC. Mike Malott could get, I think, maybe somebody else with a bit more experience, perhaps, who's doing a lot better. Let me know if you see receiving any lag on the stream. And it's not receiving enough thingies, but I think we'll be all right. I'm hoping we'll be all right. There may have been a little slight dip, but I've got Ethernet connection just in case. So smash a like on the video, guys. Welcome on in. Who would you like to see Luque and Kevin Holland fight? We're going to digress. We'll get some more chats. We'll digress then, and we head on back to talk about the second fight of the main card, where Mario Bautista picked up the decision victory against Patchy Mix. Now, he had Patchy freezing up a lot with his feints and just how quick he was. He was just able to avoid any counters that Patchy Mix threw at him. And he was just too quick for Patchy, I think. You know, he landed a couple of good right hands over the course of the fight. He avoided the ground game from Patchy because we knew if Patchy was going to be able to get him down, that's where we could see him get caught. But Bautista has survived against some good grapplers in the past, being Damon Blackshear naming one of them. What's good about Bautista is he has the 2nd highest win streak in the division currently. Is he Merab's toughest test is also a question, which we're going to answer a little bit later on as well, perhaps. Because I think he can be. And also, which top 5 fighter could he receive next? I've got a good one for him. As for Patchy, though, before I get into the matchup for Bautista, I just want to say that he did come into this fight on 3 weeks' notice for a tough rising contender who's fast and durable. It's only Mix's 2nd pro loss, so I think he'll bounce back and look to prove people wrong. But also, what's the best ideal matchup for Patchy next? Do you think he deserves a ranked opponent? Or does he deserve to fight somebody who's outside of the rankings? Because now he's in a similar boat to Pitbull, right? You had your crack against UFC caliber fighter. You failed the test. What's next? You know? Michael Venom Page, they kind of kept around a little bit, didn't they? You know, I think, what was it? His debut was great. Great win against Kevin Holland, somebody who I believe, he might have been in the rankings at that point, to be fair. Then he lost to Ian Machado Gary, and it's like, oh, what do you do now? You're at the bottom of the rankings. We can't really put you above anyone, or pair you up with anyone above you. Go to the weight class above, like, you know? So we'll head into the rankings then. Let's have a look at some changes, because we'll be heading back to the rankings a little bit while later as well. Umar has now gone up to 2 above Peter Yan. And Bautista now slots in the top 10. But who should he fight in the top 10 is the ultimate question we've got to ask ourselves here. I would give him Davison Figueiredo, because I think Bautista is ready for a former UFC champion. But would this win grant him a title fight is the question. Because if you say Corey Sandhagen is next for Merab Dvalishvili and Merab Dvalishvili gets past him with ease, Who is then next on the bill? Well, maybe Peter Yan is pushing for a title fight, but at the same time, we've already seen him fight Merab, and Merab schooled him for 5 rounds, solid. So there is an argument for Bautista. However, is he going to gain any momentum in terms of popularity from now until then? Maybe not. And maybe he does need to kind of start finishing people. So maybe for him to fight another person with a bit of name value in Deiveson Figueiredo could be his ideal path to top 5 or top 10, kind of top 10, or potential title, put him in the position for a title fight. So yeah, that's who I've got for him. As for Patchy Mix, though, do we put him in with a ranked opponent? I mean, the person I got on my list was actually Rob Font, who is 1 spot above Bautista. Now, I only put Rob Font in there because, he last defeated a guy who stepped in at short notice back in February in Gene Massimento. So, do you really want to push him against a top guy? Probably not. I think this seems like the perfect fight for him to have with a full camp. Patchy, I mean, this time. So that's why I put him in there. If not, then who do you give him? Ayman Zahabi's on a 6-fight win streak, and he's striving for top contention since beating Jose Aldo. So he's in a similar boat to what Mario Bautista was in before entering the octagon this past weekend. Got Montel Jackson at the bottom of the leaderboard there, in with a 6-fight win streak as well. Vinicius Oliveira in at 15 with a 5-fight win streak. He's going to be fighting Kyler Phillips. Marcus McGee is getting a crack at Peter Yan. He's on a 6-fight win streak and at 13 there. So maybe Montel and Vinicius Oliveira should also deserve top flight competition then, right? Maybe they deserve a Marlon Vera or a Deiveson Figueiredo, someone who's coming off of a loss. Henry Cejudo. Is Cejudo sticking around? That's also another question, right? Why is he still in the rankings? So there's a lot to ask ourselves about this whole division and its movement, because these people in the bottom need to get up to the top pretty pronto, because otherwise it's going to be some tough fights to sell for Merab Dvalishvili, and we're going to get into more of that a little while later. So smash a like on the video. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you in the house. Don't be shy. Let's hear some of your thoughts and opinions, because opinions matter most here on the Against the Fence channel. Let's digress then. Let's head into the... buttons have stopped working. Let's head into the third fight on the main card, which saw Joe Pyfer picking up the decision win against Kelvin Gastelum. Now, he could have pushed for the finish on 2 occasions in round 1, but decided to be patient. He knew Gastelum would be tough to finish, and he didn't want to risk gassing himself out and later losing the fight. So I thought it was a good call for Pyfer. I thought he fought a very good fight. Ash, however, wasn't really too pressed during the watch along. He said he felt like Joe Pyfer is just a middleweight Josh Emmett because he just likes to throw the overhand right all the time. I can see that. Here you go. He's popped up the the right timing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like that you could be onto something there. It could be a good shout. Yeah, maybe we do need to see more from him, perhaps. But let's face it, who do you think is more entertaining, Joe Pyfer or Josh Emmett at this current state? I mean, I guess maybe Joe Pyfer does remind you of Josh Emmett when Josh Emmett first started in the UFC and he was knocking people dead. Once you get into the rankings and you get tougher competition, those knockouts are going to come a lot less frequently because of the level of competition you're fighting. However, it's apples and oranges here. You've got the featherweight division and you've got the middleweight division. Featherweights move a lot quicker. Middleweights don't. So, I don't know. I think Joe Pyfer, there's a lot more to be seen from Joe Pyfer, and I've got a really good matchup for him next. Barrett says, didn't enjoy this fight, unfortunately. Yeah, fair enough. I get you probably wanted to see Joe Pyfer end Kelvin Gastelum and put him into the shadow realm. Did you pick Pyfer heading into this fight by knockout, perhaps, or whatever? Pyfer looks huge, though. Yeah, look, Pyfer is a light heavyweight. He looks like a light heavyweight in there, and Gastelum used to fight at welterweight. But Gastelum's a lot thicker. He just lacks a bit of height for middleweight. So Kelvin, for me, has always been a little bit of an in-betweener. You know, he really has suffered against big middleweights who are a lot taller than him. But at the same time, at welterweight, he just can't make the weight. Like, he struggles making the weight, right? So, I don't know, man. I got a good fight for him next, though. I'll start off with that one. With Kelvin Gastelum, his overall performance was pretty flat as well, I felt. You know, maybe he didn't properly recover from that round one. I felt like we didn't see anything significant from him. But the next fight I want to give him would be Andre Muniz, because he's coming off of a loss against Ikram Aliskerov, both similar in age. Striking edge I would probably give to Gastelum in that, and grappling edge I would give to Muniz. So why not book it if you're the UFC? It gives Muniz somebody who, well, again, has got more UFC experience, because he's had like a few fights in the organization now. He's currently not ranked as well. So click on his name. Let's bring up his recent resume quick. Yeah, he beat Jong Young Park, the Iron Turtle. I guess he's quite old. He lost to Paul Craig and Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's a young prospect of the division at the time. Paul Craig is a bit of a veteran and has fallen on hard times as of late. He beat Uriah Hall. I guess he's a veteran, so that was impressive. Eric Anders, meh. Jacare. All right, Jacare was on his way out. So he's had a few wins in the UFC now. So maybe a Gastelum fight would make sense. As for Joe Pyfer, then, I've got the Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov loser. Now, that fight is scheduled for UFC 317, so timing makes a lot of sense. And if we go into the rankings there, we can now see that Derrida's been moved up above Paulo Costa, which is interesting. I think it's purely because they're trying to sell the Robert Whittaker fight more. I think that's where I think. So yeah. Barat says, I wish Pyfer had more output. If he had that, the fight would be more entertaining. Gastelum seemed very flat. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, wasn't it? It was a shame. I think, yeah, maybe he should have pushed for the finish a little bit more. It almost seemed like he respected Gastelum's ground game in a way. It was like he saw Gastelum as like this Brazilian black belt phenom and just kind of stood off him a little bit. Whereas I felt like he could have gone into guard and really rained down on some elbows and stopped the fight. So, yeah, I don't know. And plus he trains with Sean Brady. Sean Brady, even though he's a welterweight, would probably put you under some deep pressure on the mat. Rat says maybe the power of Pyfer stunned him enough to make him hesitant. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I think, landing that early shot in the fight just sets a precedent, really, for the rest of it. He's going to make sure that he doesn't get caught with it again. And because of that, he was gun shy. He was. Yeah, a lot of fights in this division. Paulo Costa is in at 13 there. So maybe Pyfer is ready for another shot at someone in the rankings. However, the guy that he last lost to, Jack Hermansson, is nowhere to be seen. Yet isn't he booked? I can't remember if he's booked or not. See if I can bring that up. Is he booked? I thought I saw something, unless I dreamt it. Because he just kind of like goes missing, doesn't he, Jack Hermansson? Oh yeah, he's fighting Gregory Rodriguez at UFC 317. I thought I'd seen him booked. Tough fight. I mean, it's a good fight for both guys, I think. It's a tough fight for Rodriguez because Hermansson's just going to dance around him for 3 rounds. Really. Yeah. So for Joe Pyfer, then to recap, I'm giving him the loser of Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. And then as for Kelvin Gastelum, it's got to be Andre Muniz. It's got to be Andre Muniz. It's a fun fight. Book it. Maybe like a prelim pay-per-view, perhaps. That's what I see. All right, we're gonna digress to the co-main event next. Do make sure you've got that like button hit on the video. We're gonna get into some news segments. We've got an update from the John Jones versus Tom Aspinall situation. We'll also talk about potential fight between Merab Dvalishvili and Alejandro Pantoja. We'll talk about Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, and I'll also reveal who I think gives Merab Dvalishvili his toughest test in the bantamweight division. So do make sure you stick around for that. So I head on now to the co-main event, where we saw Kayla Harrison finally pick up the UFC gold as she defeated Juliana Pena via submission in the second round. That Kimura was quick. Looked like she was trying to set up the head and arm choke for a little while. Felt like she was on the cusp of getting it, and then she switched to wrap up the arm. So it was nicely done for her. She needed to get the finish in this fight, in my opinion, because her cardio was going to be questionable beyond the third round. And I think that Juliana Pena's game plan was to survive the first two rounds and increase her output in the third round when Harrison starts to slow down, capitalizing 3, 4, and 5 to take a decision or get a late submission. I think that's where she saw it. But it didn't really materialize for her in a post-fight, whatever you call it. Was it interview or post on Instagram? She has called dibs on the Harrison versus Nunes winner, which I don't think should really happen. Let's be real here. I think Juliana Pena needs to fight Ketlin Vieira next. Timing wise, it makes sense. But look at the division here. Pena falls off, and that's it. You've got Vieira in at number 3. But we all know that Juliana Pena will sit out and wait instead, right? She's not the most active of fighters on the roster. She will probably turn down a Ketlin Vieira fight and put her in waiting for so long, which I think is bad, really. Like, let's be real. Pena's going to be clutching on a Amanda Nunes rematch. Nobody wants to see it. Amanda Nunes said that if she's coming back, she's going to, and she beats Harrison, she will defend the belt. But, you know, it's sort of like, well, if you beat Harrison, what else is there left to do, really? Unless you're really skint and you miss fighting that much. And that's, I guess, in a way, fighters do get the ick from time to time once they retire and they want to get back in there and continue competing. But I don't know, you know, and yeah, I think money is probably largely part of it. But that Juliana Pena trilogy fight does nothing for her. So Pena, I think, needs to move on. She'll be worried of losing her spot. Ketlin Vieira is, I think, perfect. And I felt that Ketlin Vieira has been a bit of a dark horse in this division. You know, I felt she was quite unlucky against Harrison. In that second round, it looked like she was starting to get a groove a little bit more, stuff takedowns, land shots on the feet, but when she conceded that takedown in the third round, that was it. It was kind of game over. Harrison was just going to grind her out for the remaining of the round, and that's how she got the decision. So I think Vieira can bounce back from that. But now let's talk about the Amanda Nunes super fight with Kayla Harrison. Let's break it all down, shall we? If I head on into this scene here. No, not that one. Where is it? There we go. Head on into this scene here. That's the face-off. I'm glad the UFC finally let Amanda Nunes in the octagon. It didn't look like security wanted it at first, but it happened. So breaking down this fight then, thing is for me, which questions, I can't help but question the fact that Amanda Nunes has been out for a while. Has she kept training during that time is a bit of a question here as well. Harrison doesn't have as much experience as Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes' fight IQ is high level, and she's been in there with pretty much all of the toughest competition. You know, she beat Cyborg in quick succession, and we thought Cyborg was going to be her toughest test, right? And I think Amanda Nunes will be more technically proficient with her strikes and definitely has a power advantage over Kayla Harrison. On the other hand, Kayla Harrison is in her prime at the moment at the age of 34, whereas Nunes is 37. And we've seen the best of her, even though the win against Juliana Pena second time was flawless. Like, she dominated her. And that did look like vintage Amanda Nunes. But I think with the time off as well, you got to think, have we really seen the best of Amanda Nunes? Will we see that same sort of fire from her in this fight? Both girls, I think, have equal cardio, but Nunes might be able to kind of pace herself a little bit better than Harrison. The reason why I say they've got equal cardio is, well, we got Kayla Harrison, who cuts a lot of weight to make that weight class, and that's going to be a factor in the fight. Amanda Nunes, on the flip side, she did gas out in that first Juliana Pena fight and got choked out, so that's why I think it's fairly even. And Nunes has showed difficulty off of her back before, whereas Harrison's size and strength in this area should give her the edge. So you give striking edge to Nunes, hands down, without a doubt. Grappling edge to Kayla Harrison. Cardio's pretty even. Nunes gets power for me. And speed-wise, I don't know about speed. Kayla Harrison kind of comes at you fast and looks to kind of put a pace on you early, whereas Amanda will kind of sit back a little bit, be a bit more calculated with her shots. So I don't know. Speed's a very difficult one as well, and that might be the deciding factor. Speed, and then Kayla Harrison getting takedown and perhaps threatening submissions early doors. If he goes past second round, similar to Juliana Pena fight, then Amanda Nunes, I think, can take over. And Amanda Nunes has that championship experience at UFC level to adjust as the fight goes on. And she's going to have a good camp, of course. So, yeah. Barat says she claimed that she trained all the time, but who knows? She has own gym, she said. Oh, she has her own gym now. Yeah. So, which kind of, you know, I think when she was at Top Team, she was at her best. And yeah, it does make you think, right? Should she have stayed at Top Team? Or apparently, did she leave because Harrison joined? I don't really know the beef behind it all, if I'm honest. What I say? All right, cool, awesome stuff, guys. Thanks for the chat, Barat, and yeah, interested to get your pick on who wins out of Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison. I mean, at the moment, I kind of want to edge it to Amanda Nunes. I do. I could be swayed closer to the fight. When will we see it? Maybe December. I can see that happening, perhaps. Yeah. Or early next year. We'll see. I think Harrison's had an active year. She'll fight twice a year? No, she's only fought once this year. Okay, towards the end of the year, she'll come back, I think. Brad says, I think Amanda also, but I am very uncertain. Yeah, you know, I just think, yeah, the layoff makes you have that uncertainty, doesn't it? You know, whereas Harrison seems tough, man. She does. She's gonna be difficult to crack, I think, and break down. Of course, she's got one loss on her resume, against that Pacheco girl by decision. but of course that was in her own weight class, and she towers people at women's bantamweight, you know. So I don't know. I feel like Kayla Harrison, I think if she gets the win, she'll want to do a rematch immediately, and she'll be like, "Oh, put the featherweight belt on." But let's be real here: the featherweight belt is gone. The UFC failed to create that division. It disappoints me every time I think about it, because I'm like, look, you should have made more effort with it. Should have built that division. They bought that belt in play just for Chris Cyborg. Let's be real, and it was used as a tool to hype up Nunes versus Cyborg. It really was. Which it was, you know, that fight was on same card as John Jones Gustafsson, I remember. So maybe in December, Madison Square Garden, we get John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, and then we get Kayla Harrison against Amanda Nunes. Woo! Mate, that is some co-main and main right there. Innit? What do you think? Or do you think it's too big for that card? You know, you can't have two massive fights on that same card. I don't know. UFC might decide to pull out all the stops come the end of the year. Who knows? All right, cool. Let's head on back then. Let's talk about the main event. Shall we? There's a lot to go through in this. Merab Dvalishvili, that finish was huge for his career, if I'm honest. This was a defining moment, I think, for him. Fans have often called him a decision merchant. Some fans are already considering him the bantamweight GOAT now. But do you agree with that? You know, people said the same thing about Aljamain Sterling when just before he lost the belt to Sugar Sean O'Malley. Is Merab Dvalishvili the best bantamweight? Some old school fans, I think, will consider Dominic Cruz to be the bantamweight GOAT still because of, I think, that time period, right, where the UFC was just starting to accumulate the lower divisions, and he had this style which was so tricky to solve, similar to Merab in a lot of ways, right? For me, I don't know. I'd have to go back and rewatch Prime Cruz when he fought like Scott Jorgensen in WEC, Mighty Mouse, in fact, because he was just difficult to get hold of. And I feel that Cruz, a healthy Cruz, with that level of speed, could cause Merab Dvalishvili some problems. So that's my take on the fight, or just the idea of that. Merab is very well close to being up there, especially when he's got a win over Jose Aldo on his resume as well, and Peter Yan and former champions. So I think there is a huge case for him there. I really do. But the reason why I say this was a defining moment for him, like, he needed that finish. Like, he did need that finish to gain more people's respect. If he continued on to getting decision wins, then I think it would be harder and harder for him to sell fights. But the scary thing about Merab is he's getting better. So who's going to stop him? I'll get into his next fight in just a sec. Barat says, Amanda is not in the testing pool. I think she can't fight in that. Ooh, that's a good shout, actually. A very good shout. Yeah, you're right. 6 months she needs to be in it for. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I mean, look, Kayla Harrison's going to be willing to sit out for 6 months and wait for her to do all that. So in the meantime, she's going to be constantly grinding away and preparing. So, yeah. Yeah, all right, later next year it is. But, oh well, it's a shame. That Madison Square Garden card would have been ideal, right? Now, before I get into Merab's next fight and who I think his toughest test in this division is, let's get into Sean O'Malley then. In my opinion, Sean O'Malley looked better in those 2 rounds than he did the entire first fight that they had. He sadly got caught in that submission against a guy who's improving as a mixed martial artist. And I think that's just fact, really. And Merab's got his number. So who do you give Sean O'Malley next? I've got 2 options for him. It could be Song Yudong. We'll go back into the rankings then for you guys. It could be Song Yudong. Just beat Henry Cejudo, former champion, and looked very impressive in doing it. So he deserves to fight up for that reason. You got Umar Nurmagomedov, who's without an opponent. He will probably return towards the end of the year against a big name. So maybe Song Yudong versus Umar could happen instead. But if Sean O'Malley isn't going to fight Song Yudong, then could we see a Petr Yan rematch? Now, Petr Yan needs to get through Marcus McGee first, of course. If he gets through him, then why would you not make that rematch? It makes sense for Yan to prove himself further if he wants to get that rematch against Merab, because he was dominated across 5 rounds. And I feel like he needs to prove it to fans and the UFC brass. Now, if I had the pick of the litter, I would have put him up against Umar. Because if you can beat Umar, for me, stylistically, because Umar, on paper, is and probably Merab's toughest test. Let's be real here, right? But Merab schooled him. So if you're Petr Yan, take out Merab's toughest test, bosh. Title fight. You got it. You got it back. But, you know, Sean O'Malley, run that fight back. Then you move back up to the number 1 spot. So, and then that also is something you can't really, no one can deny you after that. So, yeah. Now, let's take you back to this screen then. Because I want to talk about what's next for Merab Dvalishvili. Okay. Now, Corey Sandhagen might be the next man to challenge him, but is he the toughest challenge in the division for Merab? I'm going to tell you who I think Merab's toughest test is and why. But first, you need to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button on this video. No, sorry. First, you need to hit the like button and the subscribe button on the channel. And let's get into it. Now, we saw Sandhagen struggle with Umar Nurmagomedov over 5 rounds, even though he had early success with defending takedowns. It became a much harder task once fatigue settled in. Now, like O'Malley, has Sandhagen got a puncher's chance of catching Merab Dvalishvili? Probably, right? The Frankie Edgar highlight knockout would tell you that he has more chance of catching Merab than Sean O'Malley does. But he'd have to land that shot within the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. Or Corey would need to copy the same training camp that Jack Della Maddalena had heading into that Belal Muhammad fight. So what skills do you need to beat Merab? Strong cardio, which is close to kind of matching Merab's, I guess. The ability to scramble out of positions time and time again, similar to what Jack Della Maddalena did against Belal Muhammad. To keep the fight on the feet, to counter at speed and land combinations in order to score points in the judges' eyes. But who have I described best in the UFC's Bantamweight division? My opinion, Mario Bautista is the toughest test for Merab in this division, and I'm going to tell you why. He's shown multiple high output performances. Question is, how does he look over 5 rounds, which we're yet to see? He's a striker who needs to get into boxing range to land his best strikes, and he can do that with speed, whereas O'Malley likes to kick at range and set up his counters, and Sandhagen works everything off of his jab. He's fought competent grapplers like Patchy Mix and Damon Blackshear. However, he's not fought someone as elite as Merab in that area. What do you think? Do you think Bautista might be Merab's toughest test in the bantamweight division? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the chats and hit subscribe on the video. Let's see. George Merry, good evening, JK. What's good, my bro? What's good? What is good? Back from Dorsey. Lovely, good stuff, mate. Or Dorset. Didn't catch the UFC in the weekend, but saw results. Baby keeps you on your toes. Merab versus Corey next. Sean with Umar or Davison. I like those options as well for Sean, actually. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you definitely need to go and catch the fights, really, and catch Merab's performance, because it was pretty damn impressive. Do you think that Mario Bautista and Mario Bautista's win against Patchy Mix, because I think Bautista could be Merab's toughest test in this division, I really do. I'm not like a super Bautista fan, because I'm still a little bit sore from when he beat Jose Aldo and held Jose Aldo for 3 rounds. But when you take into account his ability, it kind of is a good suit for Merab, taking on Merab. And I did say in the watch along as well, I feel like in order to beat Merab, you almost need to catch him off guard when he starts getting a little bit more playful. Similar to what Anderson Silva did against Chris Weidman, right? When you're on top of your game for so long and complacency kicks in, then that's when you can get caught. Maybe Corey is the man to catch him. As I said in previous videos, I felt that I saw the vision of Sean O'Malley knocking him out by a flying knee. Maybe I looked into the fires like the witch in Game of Thrones, right? I looked into the fires and maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it wasn't Sean O'Malley. Maybe it was Corey Sandhagen who gets the win and lifts the belt. I would absolutely love it if that was to happen. But at the moment, as it stands, I'm not confident, because we saw Corey suffer against Umar, right? If we hadn't seen that, then maybe that fight would be a little bit more exciting. So for that reason, I could see maybe that being a co-main event and putting a bigger fight ahead of it. Barat says, I think Umar, even though Merab obviously beat him. So what, you mean you want to see a rematch with Umar and Merab? I'd like to see Umar get another crack at gold, but I do think we need to see him with a win under his belt first. It's a shame. I would have really preferred seeing Umar versus Peter Yan. I would. George says, caught the TNT highlight. I know I said Patchy, but he was shown level between UFC and Bellator. Patchy Mix versus Song Yadong. Yeah, that's the one I said as well, mate. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no worries, Brat. Yeah. Yeah, no, Patchy, I want to see him on a full camp. I give him the benefit of the doubt. Full camp Patchy Mix, see what he can do. You know, but you're damn right. We are seeing just how the levels above the UFC are in terms of PFL or even Bellator. You know, it's like Premier League and Championship almost, to some degree, you know? Yeah, man. All right, cool. Let's get into some news bits then before we wrap this show up. I'm going to head into this scene here, clear that. And the first thing we're going to talk about is a bit of an update on the John Jones versus Tom Aspinall situation, which seems to be going on and on and on forever. But Dana has revealed some positive news. He says, I've been saying it since the beginning. John Jones agreed to do the fight. And he said all this at the press conference. John Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal. John agreed to fight Tom. Yes. He also says, you guys have heard me for the last however long. I guarantee this fight is going to happen. This fight's going to happen. You guys told me the crazy shit that's going on Instagram and all these other places. But yes, I've been saying John is going to fight Tom. He was also questioned about Francis Ngannou and whether or not he would be making a return, because that rumor sort of crept in during fight week, and Dana completely denied anything and shut down the potential return of Francis Ngannou to the UFC. And I think it's just purely because Ngannou was a difficult customer to deal with. And he kind of wants Ngannou to suffer in the PFL and fight complete nobodies in the B leagues. And it's a shame, really. It really is a shame because we could have seen Ngannou versus John. We could have seen Tom Aspinall fight someone by now in, a bigger fight. I don't know, man. I don't know. Or would Tom wait even longer? Like, I don't know. Maybe Ngannou versus Jones would have happened instead of Stipe versus Jones. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, and the thing is with this, I'm starting to think that this fight is already signed. And we're just being fed complete bullshit to cover it up until it's the appropriate time to announce it. Because I don't know, when I watch Tom Aspinall's videos now, I don't know, something doesn't seem right because he's sort of like playing on this narrative that John's retired now. That's it, Dana's confident that John's accepted the fight. I think John said something in Thailand, didn't he, to a group of people, which gave us some positivity about it. So I feel like Aspinall saying that Jones is retired is almost like a coping mechanism for him to deal with the amount of pressure that he's getting from fans asking him about this fight. And he's just so he can shrug it off. Oh, Jones retired. I've got a fight coming up. Jones is retired. And you'll reveal it. You'll find out about it soon. So you've got Dana who said it's been accepted. Aspinall's confident he knows what his next fight is. And it's signed. So you put 2 and 2 together here. I think the deal is done. The fight gets announced during the broadcast of UFC 317 because they're not going to announce it just yet. They're going to keep it under wraps because they want you to buy the 317 pay-per-view. You've got Topuria and Oliveira, 2 huge stars in the UFC. Once that pay-per-view is aired and is ongoing, what's there next for fight fans to get excited about? There's nothing. Completely nothing. So, if you're the UFC, you drop that bombshell, boom, let the fans get what they want. And that's what I think is going to come down to. So, I'm confident it's booked. I'm confident it's booked. Chat's saying, George Mo says, Manuel Carp has had more cancelled bouts than I've had hot dinners. The flyweight from Ryzen got shown level by Pantoja. That is another one to add to the list as well. You're right. Man, Dorilla's just been the one who's been tearing through people, isn't he? I saw Tom versus Garn as Paris headliner talk about insult to injury. If they make him defend again and on a fight night, every other fight has been stripped, Connor was for inactivity. No, surely not, mate. You can't make Tom versus Garn in Paris. I would be... You're going to annoy so many fans. I don't know. I think maybe that is a deflection. I think that might be something of a deflection. I think Garn will fight at Paris, but it won't be Tom. It's going to be probably Gelson Almeida, right? Because then surely the winner of that then gets the winner of Aspinall versus Jones. Rat says, but Dana said also that it wasn't signed. Of course he's going to say that. Of course he's going to try and deny it. He's going to try and deny it until it's the right time to announce it. That's where I'm going to die on this sword. Jordan Murray says John needs 6 months. Apparently, you're getting it at MSG or Vegas for last card of the year. Yeah, that's what I'm confident. I think it'd be MSG. But again, who knows what's true? Says Barat. Yeah, no, that's true. I just think they're really trying hard to keep it under wraps. If only we had an Ariel Helwani to dig at it and get it out there, because we all know that Ariel likes to spoil things. In fact, this has been so long ago now since Ariel spoiled the Brock Lesnar's return. Man, it's just crazy. MSG for the wins this side. Yep, last card of the year. Do you know what's also weird is I think there was some good flights for December into New York. Should maybe take advantage of them, shouldn't I? 400 smackaroos, mind you. So, I don't know. Maybe we could better start saving. I've just got too many stag do's to get through, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of my take on the whole situation with John Jones and Tom Aspinall at the moment. Let's head on to the second topic. I've only got 2 topics in the new segment tonight. You know, I wanted to pack together some other bits for you instead. But it is Merab Dvalishvili open to fighting Alejandro Pantoja in a super fight. Now, would the UFC make this fight happen? Pantoja is close to clearing out his division, right? So he's like fighting Kai France is a scrape of the barrel, really, isn't it? And he's going to pass that with flying colours. Merab doesn't have many options either, depending, of course, on results. Now, what I mean is whether Marcus McGee is able to pick up the win against Peter Yan, then he's almost like there in the mix, right? Corey Sandhagen is going to be next, I think, for Merab. Hopefully they make that fight pretty soon, unless Corey gets injured again. And it's a shame because I don't think that fight, I mean, I'll be excited about it, but I don't think everyone else would. So maybe it would be time for Pantoja to move up eventually. And does he give Merab a tough test, really? I think Merab's size is going to be a problem for him. The things that I mentioned earlier about Bautista, however, Pantoja fits that category. You know, he's good on the ground. He's very good with his scrambles, getting back to his feet. The only problem is striking. He's going to be faster on the feet. Is he going to be more proficient at striking than Merab? I don't know. He's not going to knock Merab out, however. So is he somebody who can maybe match Merab's cardio and drag him into a decision, close fight, and edge it, perhaps? Possible. Now, Merab spoke to Ariel Helwani, I believe, yesterday, and he said, yes, if he will move up in my weight class and the UFC is interested in this, no problem. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in this fight. I respect Pantoja. Pantoja will be a tough opponent for me. If Pantoja wants this and if the UFC wants this, I have no problem with that. And look, that's how gangster Merab is. He's willing to fight whoever. And that's a super fight right there. Dvalishvili and Pantoja is a super fight. Why wouldn't he want it? So, yeah, I would be excited to see that fight. Fingers crossed it materializes down the line. But at the same time, look, I kind of also want Corey Sandhagen to get the upset victory. So, look, I can't win either. I mean, look, win-win either way, I guess, really, right? If Rob just dominates Sandhagen, then it's like, well, okay, we knew that was going to happen. Let's see the Pantoja fight, right? And we got to be thirsty for that, for sure. I will be, anyway. All right, awesome stuff, guys, in the chats. Thank you very much. Let's head on over now to the main screen to wrap this up with you guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being a part of the Against the Fence channel. Hit a like on the video if you've not done so already. Hit the subscribe button as well, because fan opinions matter most here on this channel, and we love your input as we continue to grow, and grow. Make sure you join us this weekend at a pay-per-view time, similar time to this past weekend, for UFC Atlanta, Usman versus Buckley. It's going to be a jam-packed card. Surely there's going to be a finish in that fight. Can Buckley dethrone, take out a former champion and continue his rise up the welterweight ranks? Or will Kamaru Usman prove that with a bit of time off, you can get back to your old self and pick up a victory against a rising contender? So, who knows? It's going to be exciting stuff. It's going to be exciting stuff. George Murray says the flyweight champ after Alex vacated will be have already been beaten by him. Another Money Mouse issue all over again. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're damn right. And it's a shame we didn't get to see Pantoja versus Money Mouse, isn't it? It's a shame. Money Mouse still had it. He shouldn't have been traded. But look, we could talk about that till the cows come home, really, can't we? All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.